Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's session of NRAI's Insider's Guide to F&B, powered by Petpooja. I'm Gauri Devidyal, a Mumbai-based restaurateur and co-founder of the Food Matters Group, which includes restaurants such as The Table and Max Street Cafe. I'm also the Joint Secretary at the NRAI, and I will be moderating the session today. To give you some background behind the NRAI's Insider's Guide to F&B powered by Petpooja, it's an exclusive 12 event series focusing on everything one needs to know about the various aspects of running F&B businesses and for what will hopefully help each one of us in becoming a pro restaurateur. As part of the series, NRAI will be conducting regular knowledge sessions, so please stay tuned on social media handles of NRAI for updates. Today's session is about how to make your restaurant franchise ready. One of the things that we are most protective of as restaurateurs is our brand, of course, and that's where the real value lies. So the idea behind today's session was to have some great panelists who are going to deep dive into everything you should be thinking about before making that all important decision to franchise your brand. Our first panelist today is Mr. Anand Krishnan Ravi, who is the Managing Director of Basanta Bhavan Hotels Private Limited. He has a strong educational background in international hospitality management and is a third generation restaurateur who is leading the business in its 50th year of operations. Namma Vidu Basanta Bhavan, which means our house in Tamil, has 25 outlets pan India and is also present in 5 countries internationally. Our second speaker today is Ms. Heli Gandhi, who is the Key Accounts Manager at Petpooja. She provides round-the-clock services and solutions with her exceptional problem-solving and communication skills. She leads the team and looks after Petpooja's premium clients. With more than 7 years of experience in B2B telecom and food tech companies, Heli is highly oriented towards customers, product, and team building. And she'll be talking a little bit more about how Petpooja can support you in the goal towards franchising. The speakers will be taking up questions after they're done with their presentations. So please feel free to write your questions in the comments section throughout the session, and we'll be sure to take them up at the end. So coming now to the session, Anand, I want to start by asking you the first question. Sorry, can we get the questions?
Yes, please. Hi, guys. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here today. Please go on, Gauri.
So Anand, let's dive right into the idea of franchising. And I think first and foremost, when someone's making this decision, can you take us through the pros and cons of franchising your business?
Franchising, as in the term, so it's a very wonderful opportunity for the brand and also the person who's taking the franchisee of the brand to expand into different markets. There are a lot of advantages and disadvantages in this. Both the brand, we have to look at 2 point of view. One is from the brand perspective, the other one is the franchisee perspective, right? So there's two things. So here, I think we're more talking about from the franchisee perspective, I suppose, in this conversation. So I'll come from the franchisee's perspective. So the advantages of the franchising business from the franchisee perspective is that one, they have successful mantra to start a business where everything is proven, tested, and it's running successful. And so it's just a plug and play from the franchisee perspective where they don't want to explore much into what they want to do, what is the business plan, what type of pricing they need to set. There are still different markets work differently, but overall, from the general perspective, I'm just speaking here. So just a plug and play concept of the franchisees in terms of being one of the advantages here. And then the brand recognition is there definitely when you go and take a franchisee. You don't need to spend as much as that you're spending starting a new brand where you need to do a lot of marketing, where people don't know about your product. You need to send your word out. And if it's a franchisee, people know what exactly they are going to experience from the brand. It's because For example, if I'm in Chennai and if I'm opening in other part of Tamil Nadu, people know the brand, so they know what is the food that's going to be offered, what is the service, what are the price points. So it's easy from the customer perspective to just go and experience what they want to. That being the second advantage. And third is that the franchisees always have a support from the brand in terms of executing the restaurant. So we help them in terms of designing the place. We help them in terms of the floor plans. What is the maximum number of seats that you can get in one particular layout, and how minimized can you operate the kitchen. I mean, today the square feet, the rentals is a huge issue in restaurant industry, because predominantly most of the restaurants, they want to open on a ground floor, and ground floor seems to be the expensive rentals today, somewhere about 100 to 200 depending on the location to location. So you should be very cautious in opening a restaurant, not to waste too much area on your back office space, like kitchen, your office, your storage. You should be smart enough to make sure that you have the maximum space for the customers to see. So you have the turnover going on very fast, that increases your average spending cover per guest, so that you're able to achieve your target for the day. So that way your rentals is also minimized in terms when the revenue goes up, not wasting unnecessary space. So we are very experts in terms of how well you can manage your place efficiently. So that's a support that the franchisees also get. And then we do a lot of training also. So it's so before we start our outlet, so when we start a restaurant for the franchisees, so the team that we designed to work in that restaurant works with us 2 to 3 months prior the opening, so that they are aware of the menu, they are aware of the SOPs, the standard operating procedures. They are aware of any hiccups. Even if they make any flaws, we are there to correct them. So when they go and operate on the day one, at least 80%, 90%, they are ready on what they can expect, on what they can, all the issues are solved. So just a plug and play. So like I said, the training is one part of thing, and the other thing is that we also help them in the supply chain. And since it's a brand, right, we procuring certain items will be much at a discounted value than an individual going and buying it by themselves. So for example, it can be a kitchen equipment to your groceries, to anything, even your cutlery, crockery, because we open thumb mark every 2 months, we are opening one restaurant, right? So there is always a volume in which supply sees that, so they know that they don't want to miss out on this brand, so we give them a regular businesses. Whereas if a single guy is opening a restaurant, the supplier doesn't know that it's the first restaurant, so he's going to give you at an MRP price. Whereas if we go and talk to them, there's definitely a 20 to 30% discount depending on the volume. So that benefit we pass on to the franchisees as well, because tomorrow they have to use our supply chain in terms of groceries or cutleries or kitchen equipments. We try to get the best quotes even for them. And the next one is that even in terms of innovation, we always try to innovate. I mean, if any business, there has to be innovation, like coming up with special menus, coming up with seasonal varieties. So we do all of that depending on the season. For example, if there's a Diwali, we do a special menu for Diwali. Or if there is what to say, a Tamil New Year celebration, we do a special thali for Tamil New Year celebration. So we need to innovate constantly as a brand. I think today that's very important. Even we as a company now, we have like almost three sub brands over the years, because we thought that Number Video was number one being the parent company. We came up with two new concepts also. So one is called the VB Signature, that inclines more towards the youngsters. So we do more of fusion food, which synergizes Indian compared to the Western. For example, to give you example, we have something like the Rasagulla, right? So we soak the Rasagulla in the filter coffee, and we call it Milan to Madras. So it's like tiramisu, but an Indian style tiramisu. So something like that. So it's a little bit of innovation there. Then we have the bhaji, the South Indian bhaji is there. Bhaji is a snack that people have during the tea time. So the same bhaji, what we do, we slit open, we stuff with potato and cheese inside, and we deep fry with panko breadcrumbs, the Japanese crumbs. So it gives the Japanese kind of twist to a regular bhaji, and we serve it with the tamarind chutney on the side. So these are some innovations that we constantly do, and we also pass it on to the franchisees. Which one work, because a lot of cost involves in this also, because
Right.
we hire a team, we do a lot of R&D 6 months before executing the each item. So we have to pay the R&D team the salary and the cost of production for each one. So there are a lot of things. So only when it's successful, we pass on it to the franchisees. Whichever things that we don't see value or we don't see if it's working, definitely we cut short it, and we change the strategy. So all this, the franchisees, they don't need to waste time on. If they tell me, hey, Hanand, we are at this location, we don't see any improvement in sales. So we give them ideas on what can be done to improve, do some innovative menus, attract some youngster population. So do something different than the regular ones. So this is one of the advantages as well. The next foremost advantage is where I see is the manpower. I mean, today restaurant industry is suffering a lot from the labor crisis. So we hardly have people to work, and again, we have to recruit the staff on time. So we, being a chain, we have a good network in terms of hiring manpower, and we are also able to rotate the staff. If one location there's a shortage, we try to shuffle between one restaurant to other restaurant, whereas a standalone restaurant will not have that kind of bandwidth, or they can't afford that kind of cost. So since we have about 25 to 30 locations everywhere, we have the presence. So we try to shuffle the staff from one location to other location. Even if it's an emergency, we try to support them. And the people in terms of the referral is also very fast, because when we have about 1,800 staff working with us right now, and people always keep on referring because they know it's a brand. People want to work in place where there is a little bit reputed. They know that they get the salaries on time, and they are taken care of. The ESAPF and the legalities are taken care of. So today's people expectation is also very, very high in terms of labor. I mean, you have to treat them like really good if you want to retain them. So yeah, so one is the help in terms of manpower as well. Yeah, so these are the core advantages where I can just list down. So that's for the advantages right now.
So, I mean, of course, for a brand, thinking about it from the sounds of it, one big one that you mentioned was just being able to expand your brand, and the sort of marketing that you get from expansion, which can happen much quicker. And essentially, we'll talk about the financial structures behind franchising, and how um, the investment is essentially, the risk is taken on by the franchisor. But where have you seen some of the pitfalls, and what maybe doesn't work for franchising, or what is it that where you've seen that it hasn't worked well?
See, the main thing in terms of franchisee business is that the franchisees and the franchisors and the brand, they have to share the same ideology, right? So the brand, in terms of executing the brand, if the ideas are synergized, uh, then we can create a successful product. So the temperament in executing the product, I mean, you should have a lot of patience first of all. Many people think from outside perspective that the restaurant industries have 50% margin, 60% margin. They say that a dosa batter is costing like 5 rupees, 6 rupees, but the charges are like 130. So they think that there is 100 rupees profit on one dosa batter, and they're very excited to immediately get on this kind of business. I mean, that's not how it works actually. So there's a lot of factors that go beyond just the basic ingredients that we use for making that kind of product. because right from the glass of water to the dishwash to the electricity to the air condition to the parking area having a valet to the security, to the back end operation in terms of electricity. And some places they don't even have a drainage in India and certain, so we have to pay for the water coming inside, we have to pay for the water being taken out. So it's two-way. Then there's a lot of taxations. So there's a lot of operation costs that goes beyond. So people should understand that we should manage it very efficiently if you want to make the correct profit in this kind of industry. And every day is a fresh chapter. It's not the same day. It's not like a garment shop where you have the dresses. You don't sell today, it doesn't matter because none of them are going to expire. But in restaurant industry, you should know how much food that you want to cook for that particular day, analyze the sale properly, analyze the footfalls properly. Because if you cook the excess food, that also goes out of your profit.
Yeah.
If you cook low food, you're going to miss out on the sales. So you should try to have the balance in terms of executing the right amount of food protection, and also make sure that you work according to your costing in terms of your menu pricing. So all that differs in terms of making better profitability in this area. And some investors should be very well understanding this concept. See, predominantly any restaurant industry, as in the thumb rule, we make about 15 to 20% profit. So that is the thumb rule for the. So if any restaurants coming in this margin, it means that is a terrific restaurant operator. So then it depends on if it's a QSR, if it's a fine dining space, or if it's a banqueting restaurant, then the profit margin differs. But I just told you the industry thumb rule. So if you're operating in this kind of margins, you should be happy, actually. So the investor also should align to this kind of ideologies. Then we can make a successful brand. So
So
these days,
we'll
like I said, there's a lot of other options. Yeah,
No, sorry. We'll come. We'll
you're
talk a
saying
little
something.
bit more about identifying, how to pick for a franchisor, which is the restaurant brand, how to pick the right
Yeah, yeah,
franchise
yes, yes.
partner, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before that, can you also take us through what the different franchise models are? So, from an operating perspective as well as a rev share perspective. So, I guess this is more from also the franchisor's perspective.
Yeah, see, there are many points of franchising model. So the two major ones that everyone is following right now is, one is the franchisee invested and company operated model. Other one is franchisee invested and franchisee operated model. So these are the two models that's been predominantly followed by all the restaurant. So again, both has the advantages and disadvantages in this scenario. So right now, we are also moving towards franchisee invested and company operated model. Okay, that's what I prefer personally. At least if it's within India, if the brand is an Indian brand and if it's want to operating within India, I would be preferring to operate under a franchisee invested and a company operated model. I would tell you what is the difference between both. So in the franchisee invested and company operated, the franchisor will invest on the complete capex of that particular restaurant, including the interior, the deposit, in terms of kitchen equipment, the table, chair, the electrical, plumbing. So he gives us the completely new outlet into the hand of the brand, and the brand will take care of the P&L. That is, since we run and we pay the revenue share for that particular invested outlet. So that revenue share again depends upon brand to brand. Some might pay 6, some might pay 7, 8, 10%, depending on the sales. So we give them that kind of sales percentage, and entire P&L is taken care of the brand, where we have to pay the rent, we have to pay the groceries, we have to take care of the salaries, etc., etc. So the pretty much the work of the franchisee is just to come see the sales and take his percentage. So the entire operation relies purely on the brand. So the next option, like I said, is the franchisee invested and franchisee operated model. So in this model, it's the same where he invests everything and the brand just helps them execute the day-to-day operation, and they just help them, and the brand takes the royalty of 7 to 8% or 6% depending on the brand to brand. They take that percentage, and the P&L completely falls under the franchisee's hand. So these are the two models that's been predominantly 90% people are running in this, but yeah, so these are two models that is there.
So from a brand's perspective, where you really are protective of the brand, the quality that you've established, and making sure that you retain that, wherever is the you also mentioned that the franchisee invested and franchisor operated or owner operated is the preferred route. So is that fair to say that predominantly that is the better way to go if you want to protect your brand and ensure things are happening to the standard that you've established?
Yeah, see, yeah, that might be the preferred way, because a lot of franchisees, I mean, I would say predominantly 70 or 80% of them who wants to take franchisee are not in the restaurant business, right? So they don't have any experience in terms of operating the brand. They don't have any experience in terms of operating the restaurant. So, and we have faced that problem. We have had some places where it was franchisee invested and franchisee operated, where we had to shut down for various reasons, where the partner was not operating it properly. They were cutting costs in terms of manpower, they're cutting costs in terms of quality. So this becomes a very hard process for the brand to monetize continuously, and we can't afford to take such risks as well. So we
Right.
know as a brand, if we are going to operate that particular restaurant, we can we can just eliminate all these kind of possibilities. And we know that when we operate out like how we operate our existing outlets, so we try to synergize the same mantra into each of the outlets, so the success rate is much more better when we operate. And even for the franchisees, they are able to get that 7 or 8%, and the P&L doesn't fall in their headache.
Yeah.
So they also guarantee the returns, and they can make the ROA in about 2 and 2.5 years. So even the franchisees are happy that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of this, you mentioned about how there are some franchisees who are not in the F&B business. So they're coming in more as investors in a particular property, right? So, um, let's talk a little bit about how one chooses a franchise partner, because there are franchisees who are also, sorry, Neha, it's the next question actually. Who are also in the F&B business and who do have the expertise to run and operate an outlet. So how does one decide what is the better route to go? Is it that if it's a franchise, if the franchisee is not from the F&B business, it's better to operate it, but if they are from the F&B business, it is an option, it is possible to allow them to operate the business? And is that one of the considerations when it comes to deciding how to pick a partner? And then the second question that flows from that is that is it better to go with individual partners in different locations, or to go with a larger franchisee partner who can take your brand to multiple locations?
Yeah. So like you said, you are coming up with a point where you said, is it better for anyone who's having a, yeah, we would prefer someone who's in which particular industry, who has the experience to run a restaurant. So predominantly how it works is some of our franchisees abroad, they also run restaurants. So they are predominantly into a non-competing restaurant of mine. So they will be either operating a banquet, or they would be operating a non-vegetarian restaurant. So they would want to partner with a vegetarian restaurant to take a franchisee. So we prefer that kind of franchises, because they know how to operate and they know how to execute that particular, in terms of the brand. So we predominantly try to choose people who have that kind of experience. In that way, we are comfortable with doing a franchisee invested and franchisee operated model, where we just foresee their operations and we just give us suggestions and they execute it. It's like that. So
Sorry, I think we've lost Anand, but I'm sure he'll just be back in. Just bear with us for a minute.
sorry, I think it got disconnected. But
Hi.
can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Anand.
You can hear me, right? So yeah, so like I said, we would prefer to have a franchisee who has the experience in running a restaurant. So that way, the franchisee invested and franchisee operated works really well. But we as a brand, we predominantly think if you're operating within India, we like to do a franchisee invested and a company operated. Predominantly, like you said, how do we choose the franchisee and if it's better if it's for an territory wise or if it's better if you open a multiple. So first I would say, see, franchisee is predominantly like a marriage. So it's like two people getting engaged or having a wedding together. So it's like a break or make. So I would predominantly suggest that if you're tying up with a franchisee, you would
I think Anand's having some network issues, so just please bear with us. So while we're waiting for Anand, just a reminder to everyone who may have joined later is that please put your questions for Anand in the comment section, and we'll be addressing them at the end of the session. Um, and we've also got Heli here, who is going to be talking a little bit more about the operational aspects of becoming franchise ready. Um, oh,
Yeah,
we've
I
got
just
Anand back.
turned on to my phone. I think my laptop was having some issues. I think better with the phone.
No problem. Go ahead, Anand. We
Yeah.
can hear you.
So I think the last one which I mentioned was go for an one outlet franchisee and see how your synergies work. If it's uh, working good, then you can sign up for a multiple location. Because at the end of the day, it depends on the understand of the franchisee and the franchisor. So I would start to go territory wise with one solid partner So that way, like I said, the advantage is having one base kitchen and opening multiple outlets. Whereas you have different partners in different locations, then it becomes very difficult for the bank to control or help each other. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And let's talk then about you've got franchise partners in India as well as internationally. You forayed in 5 countries internationally. Can you tell us how that is different from operating in India? So, what is the some of the considerations to keep in mind when you're expanding internationally or thinking about franchising your brand internationally, considering every country has its own laws, and local sort of individual considerations.
Yeah. So yeah, operating internationally is quite tricky. I mean, India, we know the operation because every state predominantly is pretty much the same, and the FSSA rules are pretty much the same for all over India in terms of restaurant operation. When it comes to abroad, like you said, different countries work differently. Where like Dubai or the Middle East, they are very strict in terms of food hygiene. They will not follow the same kind of food hygiene that we follow in India. Where India is predominantly, is a little bit lenient in terms of food hygiene, where you can see a lot of roadside shops and everything is there. In Dubai, you can't operate like that. So even if the food safety officer comes, not even one food should be on the ground. You can't keep any vessel on the ground. It has to be at least on a 1 feet table minimum. So there's a lot of rules that we need to follow depending on the country that you are going to operate. So when you're opening abroad, we should have a really strong local partner who's very aware of such rules and regulations, who knows what these standards can be maintained. Because at the end of the day, the brand whoever is going to give the franchisee abroad, we can't be there 24/7, 365 days, right? So the operation is predominantly going to be taken care by them. So we should have someone who really has the experience in operating the local restaurant over there, who has the mind and skill set. The biggest challenge also will be the visas. I mean, today, these days, a lot of restriction in terms of manpower, how well the local partner is and can give you the number of people who we can hire from India. That again depends on the strength that the local partner has in that particular country. The more people if you're able to hire from India, the better or the easier the execution will be there. And again, the restaurant operation only works pretty much different. Meaning, like in India, for a 100-seater restaurant, you would have around 40 people to 35 people working with you, right? The same restaurant in abroad, you will only have about 10 people working. So I should have only 10 to 12 people working with you. So that's a challenge. So you're working with half the manpower what we used to work in India in abroad. So predominantly the people you send over there should be very multitasking, like one guy who's able to perform 3 jobs at the same time. Like for example, your Indian chef knows how to make the Indian, knows to make the tandoor, who also knows to make some starters. Or if it's a Chinese guy who also knows Indian, it's much more better. So like that, you should try to employ multi-skilled people, because the labor cost in abroad, it's very high. Like a chef in London would be earning, who's earning in India about 30 to 40 grand, will be earning about 1.5 to 2 lakhs there.
Mm.
So the salary is almost almost 7 to 8 times than what's here, and it's very expensive. The salaries in abroad are more expensive than your rentals. So you can imagine why your staff is less. And yeah, so the team that you send should be really good in terms of the people you send abroad. And like I said, the visas. And yeah, so these are the key points that you should make sure that you stick on to while opening up outlets in abroad.
So Anand, I know one of and before we get into the like becoming operationally ready as a franchisor, which will also then lend well into what Heli's going to talk about. I want to talk about one more aspect in terms of structuring, and that actually relates to exiting, which hopefully shouldn't happen at any point, but if it needs to happen. I know that one of the biggest concerns that franchisors have is about their the product or the recipes, etc., being you know abused by the franchise partner, and potentially a competing brand being set up under a different brand name. And how is that something that you can protect from, and what happens if you how do you go about exiting from a franchise partnership if needed?
See, there's two ways how you can look at one. Your agreement should be very, very strong, where when you make the kind of agreement with the franchisee that you're going to sign up, make sure that is a non-competing agreement where your recipe, your manpower, everything is the documented that we write that they can't use them for their own personal use. That's a legal form that we always follow, and also the recipes that we follow, we try to see predominantly what these days the brand does, right? The base masala or the base mix, like if you're going for a biryani brand, for example, or if you're going for a Chinese brand, predominantly if you look at all the top chains that are operating right now, they send you the sauces, right? They don't give you the manpower that makes that kind of product at your kitchen. So predominantly they try to sell you the base product, and that way they feel that the product is not hammered when it comes to that, and that way they also try to keep the trade secret in terms of how you make a sambar or how you make a rasam or something like that. And this ideally also adds on to the revenue platform of the brand. So they not just being a royalty collector, they also provide you with raw materials that makes additional revenue for the brand as well. So that way, the franchise is not able to recreate the exact recipe what you guys have formulated. So the brand should work in this kind of model. So the brand that doesn't have any proprietary, then it's a risk for the brand. If you don't have anything proprietary where you just use products, or see, at the end of the day when you operate a brand, it should never be dependent on one person, or it should not be dependent on one particular people in terms of executing the product. It should be process oriented. The if faster you're able to achieve in terms of process oriented, the quicker you can expand. Otherwise it will be just like a one stop shop. You'll be able to shine in one particular destination, but you will not be able to recreate that magic wherever you go. There's some point that the place might run because of the people who are managing that place. The moment that people change, you'll not be able to create the same kind of magic. So it should never be people oriented. Try to make it process oriented. That's the unbreakable bus there. And like you said, how to exit in terms of, see, the two-way looking at it. If the brand is strong and if the performance is good, the brand tries to buy out the franchisee also, because they don't want to miss on that particular location. They don't want a non-competing brand to open in that particular place, because that way they lose their potential customers to someone else, and they don't want the other new brand to enter, because they know that particular outlet has been a successful outlet. I'm sure any brand would want to open there. Like, for example, if a KFC is there, and if KFC shut down tomorrow, I'm sure McDonald's will want to open in the same location. If the KFC and the landlord doesn't have a good terms, you know. So we try to buy out the location. So predominantly, what some of the brand does these days also, I would tell you. For example, subways, right? Most of the subway, they sign the tenancy agreement in the company's name, and the franchisee is investing on that particular outlet. And tomorrow, even the franchisee wants, he can't bring in other brand. So these are some kind of strategies that the brand follow these days. That a landlord ties up with the brand, but the rent is paid by the franchisee. So tomorrow, even if the franchisee wants to change into, for example, a different brand, he will not be able to because the landlord has given it to the company. So these are some of the ways how we can safeguard ourselves in terms of executing, that particular outlet in one particular location. Yeah.
Understood. So let's talk a little bit about the operational aspects. If you make that decision that you want to go the franchise route, how do you make yourself operationally ready? I mean, you mentioned a few things like having, SOPs and all your sort of, procedures in place and systems in place. But how do you actually practically go about doing that so that it can be an efficient process?
See, how you make your company franchisee ready is first, we as a company should be confident enough that we can recreate uh, or we can recreate a similar place where we are able to give the same experience elsewhere. So the first and foremost thing that you should be very very this thing is make sure uh, that your like in terms of food I'm saying is make sure that all your core products that you are able to have the same kind of SOPs plugged and play that you can execute it elsewhere. Like I said, like me being a South Indian brand, right? Today we are standardized the sambar, we standardized all the top 20 bulk items that come out from a kitchen. So if like for example, our top 20 bulk items that come out from the kitchen, we have tried to standardize it, making all masala based. So tomorrow, if I send you the masala and if I give you the steps, even you will be able to make that sambar at your house. So you should be able to recreate this kind of process. Again, it depends on brand to brand. For a burger brand, it might work differently. Me being a South Indian brand, it'll work differently. Probably a guy who's operating juice or a milkshake bar that will operate differently. Like they would be having their own ice cream production where they send it to their own franchisee that they sell the ice cream. So this supply chain, it's the most important when you try to do a franchising, right? So when your supply chain is not proper, I would say please don't go for franchisee. Or when you make sure your supply chain and your inventory management and your what to say your process is all where you are able to track it down. You need some kind of point of sale or you need some kind of inventory management system where you are able to track down what kind of salt you're using, what is the brand of salt that you're using, what is the brand of um, uh, masala that you're using. This has to be tracked at any given point of time. You have to be able to see what's in your store, what is the uh, item that's been. You see, for example, if you're using Tata salt, and there's some other salt that comes, you should be able to know that there's some other salt that's coming. The system should tell you. The process should be as such that the brand is being changed, so the owner knows. And if the product there's no divergence, then it's fine. But certain ingredient might give a very different twist to your overall product. So that way, if you're able to track this level, then it's fine. Like you said, your
That's something that's obviously possible with a lot of like pre-packaged or packaged ingredients, but when it comes to produce and where there can be variation depending on where in the country you are, and not just in terms of the like taste and quality but also price point, right? Do
yes.
you ever have to consider different pricing strategies depending on the location that you're opening in?
Yeah, definitely. Different pricing strategy depending on different location because the rent is not always the same. For example, rent in Chennai is less compared to the rent in Bombay, right? Your Bombay rentals are very even Delhi, for instance. People who come from Delhi and come to Chennai, they would find Chennai being cheaper. They'll be shocked seeing the food prices here in a South Indian restaurant because now we are opening one in Chandigarh actually. We are opening in Chandigarh in probably about 4 to 5 months. So when I went to do the R&D, when I was shocked when I saw the prices in Chandigarh, Because, for example, here we sell dosa for about 100 rupees. Same dosa in Chandigarh is sold around 220, 240 bucks. Again,
Okay.
so where it comes to it is like you said, in terms of the rental in that particular place. Also, the peer-to-peer restaurant that sell minimum base at this particular price. Probably all the South Indian restaurant in Chandigarh, the minimum dosa price is 200. So the entire market feels that is the normal. Again, it see South Indian food for people in Chennai, it's their to-go food. But the same food in Chandigarh becomes a specialty food because people there don't know how to make it, right? So here dosa, even my mom makes at home, your grandmother would be making. But people for who staying in Delhi or people who are staying in Chandigarh, they will look at like a specialty food where they look at like making a momo or making a dim sum or making a pasta at their house. So it's like that. So for here, people will be looking at North Indian food like a specialty food in Chennai. The same thing you go to North Indian, every dhaba sells, and it's much more cheaper. In Chennai, the North Indian food is very pricey because the paneer butter masala here would cost you in a good restaurant about 300, 350 bucks. Probably in North India, I'm sure you'll get it for 150, 170 bucks, half the price because again, it's their staple food. So
Yeah.
when you travel from your specialization food to other country, you become the specialty restaurant. So you can put whatever price you want depending on the quality or the thing that you use. Yeah.
Understood. I think this is the right point now to switch to Heli and deep dive a little bit more into the operational aspects. So thank you, Anand, for taking us through that overview of things to consider when franchising. And I know there are some questions here for you, so we'll come back to those
Sure.
shortly. But Heli, moving over to you for a few minutes. Can you sort of take us a little deeper into that whole aspect, which seems to be the crux of making your business franchise ready, which is systems and processes and recipes, standardization, etc. So, how does Petpooja come into supporting on this front?
Right. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much NRAI for organizing such a webinar, which is going to be so insightful for our viewers. Thank you, Gauri, for setting up the base and asking questions on behalf of all our viewers. And thank you, Anand, for answering all those questions and sharing the magic tricks for running a franchisee. I would basically want to talk about how does a pause partner come into a picture? How would Paid Puja manage those queries? And there are a lot of things that you have to take care of to set up a base. And how would the transactional part of it make it easier for you to work as a franchisee? So, while I'm sure that there are a lot of challenges that anybody would be facing, I'll just try and share my slides here. Is it visible now? Okay, fine. Uh, Thanks. So I'll give you some brief about what Paid Puja does. Paid Puja basically started from being a billing software company and has now, over a period of like more than 10 years, it has moved to being a restaurant management software now. Because we are serving much more than what we were earlier used to do, providing only the billing software things. uh, Powering more than 55,000 restaurants all across India, and we've now moved towards international market as well. Uh, the basic idea for creating this organization is prepare a system that's so easy to use for all the levels of organization, be it a biller or a manager or maybe a business owner who would want to run multiple number of outlets or maybe run a single individual restaurant. We want to make it very very simple because we understand that those who use the software at the restaurant level would also want to have the system so quick that that does not come in between the operational part of it. While I mention about and while Anand has mentioned a lot of things about how to go about franchisee and how to maybe take care of all the things that you should be taking care of, I believe there are few things that every restaurant owner or manager would be facing as a concern. here are the few things that I've listed down. First thing would be running between multiple outside outlets and keeping a check. Like we have a real example of Vasanta Bhavan, where they have outlets at multiple locations and even into multiple countries now. Uh, so keeping a track and being physically available at those locations is going to be overwhelming for any business owner. Keeping a track of all those things is becoming a problem. Another thing would be about quality and taste. Just like he said, if the outlet is not we are considering a situation when it is franchisee owned and franchisee operated. Sorry, franchisee owned and brand operated. In those cases, there'll be specific set of norms those are being taken care of. But in the cases where franchisee is operating on their own, quality and taste of food might vary, considering the kind of raw materials that they might be using, and maybe they have their own touch. Uh, Depending on the location and depending on the speciality that they might have. Another thing that would be there would be different pricing at across all the locations. But when you talk about a customer, it would be really a disappointing situation when it is the same location and I see two different pricing into the nearby locations. It becomes very disappointing for me when the taste of two different locations, like he mentioned about sambar. If I am going to Vasanta Bhavan and if I want to have sambar and the taste of this particular dish is different at both the locations, I'm going to get disappointed because I have that taste in my mind, and that's why I keep going to that location again and again. And that's how it brings the loyalty to a particular brand. Again, this is the whole flow that I want to create. First thing would be about managing the franchisee when you onboard a franchisee. Then comes the part of preparation about managing inventory, preparing food. Then comes the part of creating a bill when a customer walks in, creating menu, creating bill, putting it on platforms like Zomato, Swiggy, and all the other platforms. And then comes a part after all this is done, you want to know at the end of the day ki business kitna hua hai, right? After all, you are doing all of this hustle to know the business, and you exactly want to know ki kitna business ho raha hai, kya ho raha hai. So these are basically the problems that I've listed out, considering the process of a particular restaurant. Uh, while I talk about paid puja, how does paid puja help in each process and each layer of the process? First thing would be about managing multiple outlets from one dashboard. Like I mentioned, being physically present is not going to be possible for a business owner, and especially when it belongs to different cities, different countries. uh, Having a pause partner which helps you bring everything on one dashboard eases out a lot of pain on a manager and on a franchisee or maybe brand owner. You get every detail on a single dashboard. It's just a click away. You exactly know that these are my 20 outlets, and these are my 5 best performing outlets, these are my 5 least performing outlets, and possibly these are the outlets which I actually need to focus on. So it gives me a real time data on what exactly are my work areas of improvement, and it gives me my strength areas as well, that this particular area works really well for this particular product. So tracking performance, tracking sales, tracking productivity of employees becomes really easy for me when it comes on a single dashboard. Second thing would be inventory and recipe. Like Anand said, if you are not really sure about supply chain and managing inventory, please do not go for putting it into a franchisee. I would say if there's one thing that you have to be, this is my personal experience while I've been connecting with a lot of brands. One thing that you need to be very, very clear and very sorted with is going to be inventory. If you're sorted about your inventory, about your supply chains, about your raw materials purchases, it is going to be very smooth and you're setting the base really correct. So this, I would say, is the ground level that you have to first clear when you want to grow in terms of number of outlets or maybe managing multiple brands. So this is something that I would say is the base criteria that you might have to satisfy. uh, Another thing that comes in my mind would be about knowing your businesses. So let's say you are running 20 outlets or you are running 30 outlets. You at the end of the day want to know how is my particular outlet doing, what are my best selling products, what are my least selling products. Even if I say about, let's say, it is invested by a franchisee, but then it is being operated by the brand, I would want to know the specific set of details and results at the end of the day and at the end of the month. If I give them the specific set of report access, I do not really have to be dependent on them, and it automatically comes to me when the report is ready. I have the formats ready. They just have to punch their bills and everything comes to me on the dashboard in the predefined format that I would want. Any accountant would not really have to work on creating that reports. You don't have to be dependent on any particular person, and you will possibly be able to utilize those resources on doing something that's much more important than just creating reports, right? So it gives you a lot of insights about maybe let us think it in a way that I would want to introduce a new product, like I think Anand said about introducing a new product which was like a mixture of rasagulla and tiramisu. How do you come up with these examples that this particular region would be adaptive enough to this particular new product? Only if you analyze your sales data and only if you see a particular pattern going on for that specific region, you will be able to analyze that this particular combo might go well, and this particular product can be added as an add-on when you're trying to sell the product, and this might work as a best combo maybe, or maybe you'll be able to introduce this product to any specific region. So it basically gives you a lot of clarity on setting up your menu, setting up your products, and setting up your combos, and pitching your products in a way in which it becomes a best-selling product for you. Also, it gives you an insight about these are my loyal set of customers, and what if I want to give them some special offers, and what if I don't want them to go out of my system? What all should I plan to make them keep coming again and again, and what would be the features that would excite them to come to my restaurant again? So these are the things that would want to that would maybe take you to the next level when you want to expand in terms of your menu, in terms of number of menus, and in terms of region as well. Then comes the point, you've done the sales, you've been inviting a lot of guests, you've been feeding a lot of people, but then comes the accounting and payments part. When it comes to accounting, you want really clearer picture about what exactly is the business doing. So using tools like Tally, Zoho will give you an edge over normally doing it manually. So Petpooja has a lot of integrations like Tally integrations, Zoho integrations, which will enable you to directly transfer your data to the software, which is I would say, which is a must-use software, and without which you'll not be able to come to a rational as to what is my PNL looking like. So, unless you have those integrations, you will possibly have to put a lot of time. And these sort of collaborations or maybe integrations would help you minimize human errors, which might increase the productivity, and which might also increase the efficiency of the people who are helping you out create this sort of financial reports. So this is how it is going to help you. And the last thing would be about menu management and integrations. uh, Menu management is, I believe, is the core part of the business. It is all dependent on the menu that you have set up for your customers, be it a dine-in customer or maybe your online customers who would want to walk in. Easily managed menus are definitely a plus for any restaurant who wants to grow and who wants to make sure that these are the 5 products for which my customers should keep walking into my restaurant for. And when it comes to, let's say, a biryani, customers should directly type my restaurant name when it comes to biryani in their mind. So I do want to create that uniqueness and that magic for the particular product when it comes to my menu management. So even if you want to launch a new product all across new outlets, or even if you want to maybe experiment something at a specific location. Having a seamless menu management process and integrations would help you act really quick upon those decisions. And maybe even if you want to pull back those decisions, it becomes very easy for softwares like us, who would be very quick and who will be able to enable you to take any such decisions. Uh, Integrating with loyalty programs, integrating with accounting softwares, or maybe any third party aggregators. Now we have started doing integrations with ONDC as well. I'm sure a lot of people would have heard about ONDC. So those kind of integrations help you enable your business, increase your horizon, and increase your customer base as well. So I think these are the few quick tips that would help you. I'm sure managing multiple outlets is not easy and growing your business is not easy. But then, if there are 3 or 4 things that you have to take care of, and if you set a process for these things, it becomes much more easier, and you don't really will get stuck into transactional stuff because your past partner would be doing it for you. So you can basically focus on creating magic with your food, which exactly is your forte, right? You want to impress your customer with the food that you serve and with the quality of food that you serve. So the all the back end part of it, if the burden eases out to the past partner, it becomes a lot more easier for both the customers and the restaurant owners. So I think that's it. I wanted to make it really quick and not so boring so that people get bogged down by itna kaise karenge. But then, yeah, I think these are the few things that you should be taking care of. And I'm sure there are a lot of other things also. While Anand was saying managing manpower is the biggest problem as of now, we are also coming up with HRMS tool. So we keep coming in with a lot of features that would help you create and complete the whole circle for managing the restaurant. So be it starting your restaurant to managing your operations to taking it to the next level, we will try and help you out. So we keep coming in with a lot of new things, and we of course are learning from what all is going on into the market. So yes.
Thank you so much, Heli, and that was really informative. And I know we use Petpooja as well, and it's super amazing. So I speak from personal experience. So we've got a bunch of questions, so let's get right into that, and we'll try and address as many of them as we can. So there's one from Abhishek Verma. Anand, I guess this is more of a statement, which I think he's looking for you to either endorse or counter. He says, while we always say it should be process oriented, a small franchise owner with restaurant as second source of revenue won't be able to completely focus on its operation and its processes. And as a brand owner, your brand takes a toll. There isn't a question, but I think this is where you were talking about, being the operator, the franchisor being the operator as well, so that a franchisee doesn't have to manage that and affect anyone's brand. But do you have any comment on this?
Yeah, again, it depends on what kind of industry he's talking about or what kind of concept he's talking about. I mean, we really can't generalize the statement. So if he happens to let me know what kind of restaurant or what kind of product he's selling, then I would be exactly able to give him some kind of feedback. There are some people who are doing this frozen concept, right? So everything is like frozen, where you just fry and eat. Like KFC and McDonald's follow that kind of pattern where there's tomorrow if they send you to the kitchen, you can make the same product. I mean, that's how it goes. There absolutely there's no need of any person. For example, in my kind of restaurant, you need someone expertise. Anyone can go inside and do. So it depends on what case to case scenario. We can't really generalize such statement. So it's again a case to case scenario where, for example, I think Wow Momos and all, they do franchises where they supply the complete product.
Right.
Anyone can just anyone can. I mean, it's all frozen. You just need to take the frozen item and just put it in the thawing and just steam it and give it off. So it's
Yeah.
like There's
What
nothing.
Abhishek is referring to here is that where the franchisee cannot manage, their main business, and then they've taken on a franchise of a restaurant as a sort of side business almost, and then they're not able to do justice to that. And I think Abhishek, maybe what Anand was referring to earlier, where the franchise, if you're talking, if you're looking at an individual franchisee, then maybe it's better to operate the outlet on your own, so that you, like you said, your brand doesn't get compromised in any way.
Yeah, so like I said, the first method was franchise investor and company operated. So we can do that rather than
Yeah.
giving it to the franchisee and running it themselves.
So I think that's a natural progression into the next question, which is from Faisal Tayab, who says that as a brand owner, if I get into the FOCO model, which is the franchisee operate invested company operated model, and have 10 franchise locations running, and 5 years down the line, if I want to sell the business, how do the commercials work?
See, if it's franchisee operated company,
Owned,
see,
yeah.
franchisee investor and company operated is what you're talking, right? Franchisee investor and company
Franchisee
operated.
owned company operated, I'm guessing, is what he means by FOCO.
Yeah, so that's what even he's mentioning, franchisee invested and company operated. So again, see, when you do this kind of, when he wants to sell a business, then it comes on what are the lease term that you have with them, the number of years that particular agreement is valid for. So if it's on a shorter period, definitely it's not going to be. Generally, when you sign this kind of agreement, it has to be like 15 years or minimum 9 years, 9 years of operation together. So that makes some kind of business value, because to get your ROI, it's going to take 2.5 to 3 years. Then you need at least 7 years to run it for years. So you make considerable amount of money, right? So we can definitely sell the businesses, but it depends on the, because in franchisee invested company operated, the turnover is going to come to him. Is not going to go to the franchisee in this case. So the franchise is only going to get a percentage in the business, where it depends on a 6 to 7%, and the profit is going to come to the brand. So the restaurant industry, how it works is the multiple. Uh, Generally, benchmarking is according to the PE funding today, it's around 2 to 2.5 times the turnover, or it will be 10 to 15 times the profit. So that way, that will be able to generate a value. In that, it depends on how much percentage you want to sell it to the new business partner. Either you are interested to sell the majority, that is the 51%, or you're okay with diluting a less number of stake, that is 20% or 30%. So if you're selling a majority, then you will not have control in your own business tomorrow. Then the new partner who's coming into the brand, he's going to have the say, because he has a majority of the business right now. So it really depends on whether you're building the brand just to sell, or you're building the brand that you want to grow along with. So it depends on your ideology at the end of the day.
Faisal, I hope that answered your question. If not, please feel to ask another one. Ronit Bhogle, what is the procedure if franchisee breaks the laws of IP if the brand is registered under franchisor?
What is the law if the franchisee breaks the IP?
IP
And
laws, yeah. So
yeah,
I think
I
this is where we
understand.
were talking about them sort of using the brand in a way that wasn't maybe permitted. I guess this comes back to the legal agreements that you enter into, the franchise
Yeah,
agreements that
so
you.
when you make the legal agreement, all these points are already drafted before you enter. So everything, so you can put whatever clause you want. Like for example, certain brands put a penalty clause where they charges like 4 lakhs, 5 lakhs, depending on what kind of thing. And certain brands also penalize you, saying that you have to shut it down. Like for example, there might be a case that you're a pure veg brand and you're giving a franchisee to someone, and that guy introduces an egg in that particular dish, for instance. He's not coming to tell you that I want to use egg because a lot of my people are egg eaters. and but the brand doesn't permit. To tomorrow, if he does something like that, one, the right you have is you have the right to sue them, definitely, and you can also uh, put this in the agreement even before you start. You can put any value to it before the agreement, or you have all the right to shut down or take your brand from them from not using it. So that I mean, the moment when the franchisee does this, I'm 100% sure you will not don't want to do business with them, because tomorrow, if he's capable of doing this, he's going to be capable of doing anything. So I would definitely recommend not to have any association with such people who are operating under such circumstances, because there's not going to be any transparency. Like again, I told, franchisee is just like a wedding, right? So it's like a marriage. So when one of the partner does that, tomorrow they are capable of doing anything else. So you rather break it and get married to someone else in the same place. So it doesn't make sense. So yeah.
Um, I think, Heli, this question's for you. It's regarding Petpooja, that in Petpooja, we have to manage different outlet IDs for different outlets, which means different usernames and passwords for different outlets. So how can we manage multiple outlets from a single dashboard? You're on mute, Heli.
I'm sorry. So while you have multiple outlets and there are multiple restaurant IDs created against each outlet, you will definitely have a different user and a password for it, considering the privacy. And if there are different franchisee owner, you would need independent users for the same. But then yes, there is an option that if you want to club all of your restaurant IDs belonging to the same brand into one user, you can do it. You can just share the contact details with us and we can connect with you if you want some guidance on the same.
Thanks. Um, Divyang Khanna has a question for you, Anand. When you mentioned about 15 to 20% margin, is it post all expenses and including the online commissions, etc.?
Yes, correct.
So you're
Including
talking
everything, that's the net profit.
as 15-20%.
Yeah, that's a net profit, including all the expenses. That's what you take home. Yeah.
I think that's it for the questions for now. If anyone else has any, please feel free to add them in the last few minutes of the session. Anand, I'll do a follow-up question to the one that was asked earlier about, infringing agreements. And have you ever come across a situation where then it's very hard to actually execute the, agreement and ensure that either the outlet is shut down or doesn't continue to operate once there's been an infringement, so that there's no sort of impact on your brand?
I've had one actually very long time back, maybe 10 years back, that see, the IP was not affected. The problem is that the franchisee was not paying the royalty. So eventually it didn't make for us to support the brand because it's been over a year. It's not like 3-4 months. Then we had just put an case and we have asked them to shut it down, and they pulled out. So since we have the rights of the brand, so we asked them to shut it down and they shut down. So one such incident that we faced long time back. Yeah.
Well, you're very lucky in that respect that it it didn't progress too much worse than that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to say a big thank you to both Anand and Heli for your very valuable insights today, and I hope that the audience got some food for thought, on how to franchise your business. And this presentation is going to be available on the NRAI website. So anyone who needs to watch it later is welcome to, and you can watch it on the YouTube and Facebook pages of NRAI. We will be having many more sessions like this during the course of the year. So please do follow NRAI's Instagram page and all their social media handles to stay tuned on what's coming up next. Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Gauri. Thanks, Hale. See you guys soon. Anyone has any doubt, you can always contact me through my Instagram or something. I'll be able to answer any help. So thank you
And
so much, guys.
if you can share your email address, maybe for people to reach out to you,
In the chat, or
or do you want to just put that in the chat just so that if people need to reach out?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat. I'll just type it over. Yeah, I just put it over the chat. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thank you.